Hi, this is Brock Banner with the Brock Banner Podcast, hockey news information covering our St. Louis Blues. And if you are a Blues fan, you'll definitely know my next guest. It's the lovely and talented EricaWeston of Fox Sports Midwest. She's part of the studio show. Erica, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Always love doing these things. Always love to interact with different sets of fan groups. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're a group, rowdy fans come in all shapes and sizes. They have all kinds of opinions. So we really run the gamut. But certainly, a lot of people have taken notice of you and your work with the Cardinals last year or a few years ago, and then your work with the Blues. In this pandemic year when people are so dependent on TV sports. Just talk about the here and now of your career. How things been going in this challenging environment.
Yeah, the last year for people in my industry have absolutely been challenging, to say the least. We've had to figure out how to do these telecasts as safely and efficiently as possible. And for us, that really means coming up with different ways to get these stories on air, because we rely so much on that face-to-face dialogue, that face-to-face communication. So when the world shut down about a year ago to the day almost now at this point, it was traumatizing for a lot of reasons, and we really didn't know what the immediate future was going to look like. So all that being said, today I'm just so glad that we're figuring out ways to safely allow fans back in the building. The Cardinals had tickets go on sale this morning, so they'll allow fans for the first time in a year inside Busch Stadium. So the last year has really kind of been repurposing how us in the industry are trying to do our jobs as best we can without that face-to-face communication. Everything's on Zoom these days. So I know us and I know a lot of the players have, mentioned, even though, we're always in their faces with microphones after terrible losses, and it's not exactly the best situation in the world, we're all just sort of looking forward to the day when we have a little bit of normalcy, and it certainly feels like there's light at the end of the tunnel right now.
And for a lot of folks who haven't been to St. Louis or don't know the layout, the arena is located right near where Fox Sports is located. So even on game days, you could feel the crowds, forming outside the arenas and the excitement of the city and just the electricity. And then all of a sudden that's gone. You're going to work just in a blank building or in your living room or what have you. So it's been really bizarre. So you're right, to be able to come through it, hopefully better. Hopefully we're all better because of it. What's your feeling on all that?
And really kind of appreciating more of the little things. I think that that's something that I've really shifted my focus into over the past years, really appreciating those smaller sort of things and really being thankful for the situation that you're in, because the shutdown really scared me. I really didn't know. A lot of us, a lot of our crew members, everybody relies on a day of work to get their pay. It's freelancers. That's how a lot of us are paid. So it was really, really scary and really traumatizing for everybody in the industry. But yeah, you mentioned it. So much of being a sports fan is the camaraderie with your other fans, and they're missing that. They're missing the people downtown, around the stadium, around the ballpark, around the arena. Especially, we had the Stanley Cup run not too long ago, and it just felt like there were so many people just circulating around the Enterprise Center, downtown, getting closer to game time. That's what makes games so much more exciting, especially for the players. They're going through it right now with the injuries, the Blues are, but come on, you would be hard pressed to find one of those guys that doesn't agree with the fact that the building is for the most part pretty empty. It has an impact with them on home ice, and they might say, we were used to empty stands in the bubble, and all of these California teams, they don't have any fans, but it certainly plays into it. You want your home ice to be an intimidating place to play, and it just really kind of hasn't been as of late. So I'm sure that has played a part of it as well. But yeah, just the people gathering and being there physically present, it's changed things a lot for sure.
And I really want to give a tip of the cap to Fox Sports Midwest. I mean, you guys have the stage outside the games. I mean, I know people who don't even have tickets to the games, but they go down there for that pregame atmosphere. So I definitely want to give credit to the network for creating those fan events and creating those connections and getting you guys up on stage. And maybe not Brett Hull. Maybe we'll keep the microphone away from him. But again, I think media people forget that fans rely on you guys, because that is our outlet to connect with the team.
Sorry,
Okay.
there's some like construction going on in the public space. Apologize for the sound. Yeah, that's what's one of the great things about my job is that while I get to interact with some of the members of the team, we're essentially an extension of the organization, right? We're in certain terms an ambassador for the organization. So we get to play the middle person for what's going on with the team, stories that are surrounding the team, and making sure that we are the mouthpiece to properly tell that story, whether it's injury related or something that's going on around the team, hockey related or personally related. So yeah, that's kind of our responsibility to bridge the gap so the fans feel that much more closer to the teams that they're cheering for.
And you've noticed fans are they're very sophisticated. They know their statistics. They know the game, and they if you make a mistake, they let you know about it. I mean, you get phone calls.
Especially in St. Louis, yes. Yeah. Fans are very, very intelligent with their teams, for sure.
Sure. And I think one thing, being from St. Louis, a lot of people, when someone shows up from a media, they just assume that person has never worked before. They just showed up and they started working. But you've obviously had an entire career way before you got to Fox Sports. You worked as a cheerleader for, I'm not sure what the PC term today is, but I'm still going to consider a Laker girl to be one of the cheerleaders. You were with the cheer squad for the Denver Broncos. You segued into doing some media work in the Phoenix market. In Arizona. You covered the LA Dodgers and covered the Cardinals. So you definitely had a huge road before you even got here to St. Louis. You want to kind of talk about your career and kind of how you got here? Let's talk about the cheer squad stuff first, because that's interesting to a lot of folks.
Yeah, I think that headline kind of preceded my work when I got here to St. Louis. As you mentioned, I wasn't from here. I didn't know anybody in the region. So all of a sudden I just showed up and there was an article written with that headline. So I think everybody had a lot of preconceived notions about what sort of human they were getting to cover their team. So that was difficult, and cheerleader is not offensive. It's not non-PC. That is the job title. That is the term.
I don't know anymore. I'm really done.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. I have no problem with it. I'm really, really proud of that background, to be honest, because it is essentially what allowed me to get here to be a part of sports media, to be a journalist for sports teams. So, people always ask me, was this something that you wanted to do since you were little or since you were growing up? And it wasn't until I became another ambassador of sorts for those organizations when I really figured out that this was the path I wanted to go. It wasn't until I was with the Laker girls, I was later in college, right before graduating, figuring out, okay, this is the path I need to pave for myself. And you have to start small. You have to start with networking. That was how I was able to land my first internship in LA. You network with these media members in Los Angeles because they're literally at your fingertips, being at the Laker game all of the time. So it was my third season with Laker girls. All I knew growing up was dance, competitive dance, ballet, competitions, traveling nationally all across the country every single weekend. That was my life. That was my existence. And when I went to college, I said, Dad, I want to be a dance major. And my father was like, absolutely not. You have some other things that you need to accomplish that a dance degree is probably not going to get you very far. He's absolutely right. So it wasn't until I was later in college when I figured out exactly the path that I wanted to take. So there was an on-camera position my third season with Laker girls. That was when the in-arena hosts were really starting to pop up everywhere and really become popular. So I got behind the camera, figured out that was something, and essentially another way of performing for me. And obviously you grow up a sports fan, so the two worked perfectly for me. And as I mentioned, that was when I became, I got an internship with the local CBS affiliate in LA. In turn, a year and a half or so later, the Lakers launched their own cable network. So I applied and got a job over there. I spent a lot of years behind the camera, figuring things out, learning how the industry works. At the same time, that was when I had interviewed and auditioned for a role like with the Lakers, but with the Dodgers, one of their in-arena hosts, and then also doing a lot of their digital content in the off season as well. So just giving their reporter a break occasionally, doing some more of the off season feature work and things like that. So all of that was getting my feet wet. You know, the high school playoffs for women's and men's basketball, little things, the Lakers then D League affiliate, which is now the G League or the Gatorade League. I was doing their sideline work. That was all sort of getting my feet wet before I landed my first full-time position, which was the job in Tucson that you had mentioned, with the ABC affiliate in Tucson, which is funny because Pat Paris, who was here in St. Louis for a very long time, had come to Tucson where he had grown up, got a job as the morning anchor there when his dad was the longtime GM. So he and I essentially switched spots unintentionally. So that was kind of a fun thing. So I certainly had a good resource when I wanted to figure out what was going on with his Fox Sports Midwest job. So yeah, it was a lot of little things to land my first full-time gig. And I will say, circling back to the cheerleading aspect of it, there's so many women in that industry that really get sort of like their launch pad for what they want to do for the rest of their careers, because you're not going to be a professional dancer for your entire life. It's just not going to work out for a lot of reasons. So I think that prepared me a lot for interviewing, for being interviewed. I've said this since the very beginning. The interview for the Denver Broncos cheerleaders is probably the hardest interview I've ever been a part of in my entire life, and without question prepared me for job interviews going forward. So that was really an opportunity for me to hone my communication skills. Dancing was secondary at that point. It was something I had done my entire life. So the cheerleading aspect, while you're seeing them, these women with full-time, part-time jobs, or also students, you're seeing them on the field performing. There's so much more to it. There's so much more that we were able to get out of it and able to pursue our dreams going forward. There's a lot of very intelligent women that I was fortunate enough to cheer with, and a handful of them are now in the same role that I'm at. Lauren Gardner with NHL Network, we were on the team together. Romy Bean, she's a sportscaster still in Denver with the local CBS affiliate. Renee Herlocker was on the team with me. She did some work with ESPN as well. So Michelle Beisner, who's now married to Joe Buck, she was a few years ahead of me. So yeah, it kind of is a weird way of growing all of these webs for women who eventually end up in sports, because we're already essentially ambassadors for a team. So I know that's very long-winded, but that's kind of the gist of it.
It really gets into a subject that, again, with March being, the International Women's Month, we had, many celebrations. They definitely gave a shout out to you on the broadcast, which was very nice. But, are we at a point in our society where some of this women in the media, it's not as crazy as it kind of used to be. I mean, when people expect it, they understand it. It's not these old guys chewing on cigars, drinking beers in the basement. It's intelligent fans. So, while I appreciate International Women's Day, but as a society, you guys are making it. You're killing it. So, what are we hurting the cause by memorializing it every year? Does that make sense?
I totally understand what you're saying, and I certainly agree that there's some truth to it. I still think we're at the point where it does need to be held, but I completely agree with you in the fact that women in these positions don't need to be memorialized, or the word that you used, or for me, it was really awkward to talk about myself on my own telecast. That was really uncomfortable. I'm used to telling other people's stories, so that was really, I appreciated the shout out. No question about that. But yeah, there's so many of us now. It's normal for me to see women talking about sports. There's been so many that have come before me that maybe that wasn't the case, certainly wasn't the case, that have been in the business for so long. But yeah, for me, it's so, especially in baseball, that's almost all of the sideline reporters are held strictly by women. It's very female dominated position. So to me, it's normal. But yeah, I still think we're at the phase where we need to give attention to it, especially the women that are calling games, that are play-by-play. That's still something that's sort of new. But yeah, women talking about sports or being analysts, that is something that I think most sports fans should be used to by now, and shouldn't be
So,
bothered, I guess, by
well,
it.
maybe as a better example was, I believe one of the networks, a competing network, had an all-female broadcast crew, and that was kind of their buzz for the day. And I just kind of started scratching
Sure.
my head. It's like, oh, I didn't realize this was the first time. I would have assumed that this would have happened already. I didn't really realize. So again, maybe me being a male and not understanding it, I definitely get it. But again, I want to move society forward. I just see that some of the issues that women had in locker rooms in the 80s and 90s, those are gone. So give the athletes and the organizations credits for making sure there is a standard in the locker room that's acceptable for women and people of all nationalities to come in and do their jobs.
Yeah, I agree. It's certainly a more comfortable place and a more welcoming place. I will say there are still incidences. I think us being removed from the locker room because of the pandemic has probably eliminated certain amounts of those because there is no face-to-face communication. It's not absent, that's for sure. Issues are still going to be there, but yeah, I don't know. It's locker rooms are still uncomfortable for a lot of us, not because anything has happened. We don't want to be there by any means. We have to be there for our profession. But yeah, I appreciate you saying you watching the all-female telecast. I think I know which telecast you're referring to. Seemed commonplace to you. There needs to be more people that have a certain sentiment that feel that way, that it's, hey, no big deal. We've got women calling the game. We have a woman as the analyst. We have a woman as the reporter. So we definitely appreciate fans that understand that, because that in turn moves the game forward.
Yeah, and I kind of just feel like, just from where I stand, that tide's turning. That if you're the old style, us new fans, I mean, we don't really have time for you anymore. We don't need racism. We don't need sexism, misogyny. Like, we just don't need it. We just want to, move things in a positive direction. Again, not asking for response, but again, talking about, being a female reporter in baseball, that has been a role that's really transformed over the years. A lot more women are performing that role, doing it at a high level. Just even in the digital space, you're starting to see on Twitter, people have their own sort of podcast. So, boy, this explosion of sports media, is it too much?
Sometimes it can feel that way, just the overexposure. And I know there are certain women with certain organizations or outlets or regional sports networks that are required to constantly post daily. There needs to be content posted daily. And there's already so much information as far as apps for networks, apps for teams, apps for highlights, apps for leagues. There's literally something at your fingertips constantly. So yeah, there might be overexposure at this point, but I don't really think we're going to be moving backwards. I think it's only going to be getting more and more as things go on.
Good deal. Really enjoyed having you on the show. Anything else that you want to add before I get into my quick fire 15 questions? Anything that I didn't really cover that you'd like to add? Message to the fans?
I don't think so. If I think of something, I don't think so. I don't know.
So this is our segment we call the Rambo Commando, and we just kind of start firing at you. So just kind of play along as best you can. So Bob Seger or Blake Shelton? Who's better?
Seger.
Bob Seger.
Bob Seger. Come on.
Love it. Love it. John Hamm or this new Bridgerton guy?
Oh gosh, all of the St. Louis fans are gonna go hard on me for not picking John Hamm, but I love me some Bridgerton. I was fascinated by the series. I think Regé-Jean Page is a transformational actor in this space, so I'm going Regé-Jean Page.
Well, I'll tell you, Bridgerton allows me to watch hockey games because my wife is addicted to it and has watched it about 18,000 times. So
you're not the first man I've heard say that.
So anyway, okay, let's get back to, so she had a chance to interview a couple people in history, Babe Ruth or Jackie Robinson. Who do you think would be a better interview?
Jackie Robinson for sure, because you would get so much about the history of him and his family and everything. I just think while both are fascinating, Jackie Robinson is just such a multi-dimensional figure and inspirational for so many different reasons. So Jackie Robinson, hands down.
You kind of wonder if Babe Ruth would show up drunk. You don't know.
Definitely a cigar in hand,
you
right? Definitely a cigar going for sure.
So this is going to take you back to your time as a sideline cheerleader in Denver. What is the worst thing you've seen or heard at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City while you're on the sidelines?
So we actually don't travel. So I never
Oh,
went to Arrowhead as a cheerleader. Yeah, I know. A lot of people think that we travel, and
that's right.
there were instances during preseason or with the NBA or preseason with the NFL as well. So we actually don't travel. I've never been to Arrowhead. I've been in the parking lot because I was at Kauffman Stadium, but never actually cheered on the sidelines at Arrowhead.
Well, again, they do a great job over there. So I mean well by, but being a cross-state rival, I'm a little bit, always have to kind of give them a little bit of sauce there. So
I am deep in Chiefs territory as a diehard Broncos fan. It is difficult.
there you go. Well, let's move on. So you're cruising the Coastal Highway in California. You got the top down. Are you playing rock or rap?
Rock or rap?
No, rock or rap.
Rock or rap?
You're on the highway, top down.
In California, I'm probably playing some rap, and I'm probably blasting California Love. It's fitting, right?
It goes there. It works. So coming back here to St. Louis, Craig Berube or Mike Schultz, who do you think fans will remember over the long term?
That's a tough question because both are incredible leaders for their teams. I have such immense respect for both of them, but I think it's got to be Craig Berube, right? He brings the team its first Stanley Cup in franchise history in such a Hollywood fashion, a tale that will literally never, ever happen again. I think it's got to be Craig Berube.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Schulte's a pretty good guy, though. But
they're both incredible.
You lived in California. You spent some time in California. So Calabasas, Bel Air, or Malibu, who's got the best party houses?
Party houses, you're probably going to Malibu, right on the waterline, overlooking the sunset. It's unbelievable. But if you want to run into some Kardashians, Calabasas is probably your place to go.
That's what I'm saying. It seems like everybody's living there, but Malibu's got the thing. So
Malibu is incredible.
What's worse, the dry heat of Arizona or this wet, sticky, nasty St. Louis humidity?
The humidity, the sticky humidity, hands down, it's not even a question. And I know people that don't ever live in the desert or don't experience the desert heat. They're like, what are you talking about? It's 117 degrees outside. I'm like, yeah, but you stand in the shade and you get a little bit of a breeze going. It's fine. It's no big deal. The humidity is brutal for me, especially on air. My hair does not agree with it. I'm sure there's a lot of women, hair and makeup, they're just melting down your face.
Yeah, my favorite is
we don't like the humidity.
Being local, everybody says, hey, let's go down to Muni and see a show in middle of July, and it's like 110 degrees. You're like, no, I'll stay home. I'm good. So again, moving backward, who would be like
save my air conditioner?
Who would be on your Mount Rushmore of human beings, sports, non-sports? Like, who are 4 people that you really respect?
Oh, man, that is such a hard question to answer. Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. I think that I needed a preparation for that question. There's I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough space, honestly. There's so many people that play a different role in everything about your life, and sports or non-sports. Paula Abdul's got to be up there for obvious reasons, right? Okay. She paved the way. She paved the way for so many women in the field that I used to come from. Yeah, she's got to be on there for sure. I don't know. I got to get back to you on the rest of that.
Correct answer would have been mom or dad, but we'll move on. So
Of course.
Just kidding. So, what have you binge watched lately?
Lately, I've been binge watching The Crown for obvious reasons. I'm on season 4, almost done with that one. Let's see, what else have I been binge watching? I'm a big true crime fan. So I love me a true crime podcast. I love me a true crime series. So if anybody has any recommendations, please send them my way. Chances are I've probably already watched it or heard it, but I love the true crime stuff.
Have you watched the new Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix?
Of course I watched Unsolved Mysteries. And I was actually...
And then it died for me.
Every single time when the episode ends and you don't have an answer, you're like, I know this going into this, but still I want there to be an answer at the end of it. It gets me every single time. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. So St. Louis style pizza or Kansas City barbecue, which you prefer being here in Missouri?
Okay, so for clarification, St. Louis style pizza, is it the way it's cut or with the Provel cheese?
The Provel cheese, yeah.
Yeah.
Provel cheese.
So I got to go with the ribs. Got to go with the ribs. I did have St. Louis style pizza the first month or so that I got here, which is now, gosh, almost 3 years now at this point. I had all of these great recommendations. People were flooding my Twitter with restaurant recommendations. So I said, okay, got to try some St. Louis style pizza, right? And I didn't know anything about the Provel cheese, so I started eating it, and yeah, it wasn't for me. Wasn't for me.
You know, it seems like when you get off the plane, the St. Louis hires people to shove pizza in people's mouths. Try this one. Try this one. Try this one. It's like it's insane. I love the pizza, but it's like, come on. I mean, you know.
It's interesting to me that everybody kind of dwells on the St. Louis style pizza because there's so much great food here. It's an overwhelming amount of incredible restaurants and cuisine here. So I don't know why everybody focuses on the pizza.
So I was reading in your bio that your brother was a competitive golfer at Colorado State, was it? So who's more competitive, you or your brother?
Probably me, for sure. Yeah, no, he's an incredible golfer. He played semi-pro on the Gateway Tour in Arizona. A lot of guys have made to the tour. He made it to the first stage of qualifying school. Now he's completely flipped the script and he's a financial advisor in Washington, D.C. So I think me, probably just because I'm around competitors all of the time, but there's definitely a sibling rivalry for sure.
Cool. And we only got a couple more questions left. I appreciate you playing along here. So you were born in Colorado. How old were you when you learned to ski? Were you like 6 months old? Like I hear these stories about kids who like go from the bassinet to the skis. Were you one of those people?
So I was actually born in California. I know it's very confusing because I've spent a couple of times in California. I've been there, I've lived there twice. And then technically my brother and I grew up in Colorado. So in the suburbs outside of Denver. So we started skiing pretty much immediately when I got there. So probably 6th grade or so. And I had gone several years without hitting the slopes until I went back a handful of years ago. It's like riding a bike, you know, we were there every single weekend. So no surprise, you miss a few years, like you on the skis. And you hop right back and it's no sweat. I will say, growing up skiing the majority of the time, I tried snowboarding a couple of times. Wasn't for me. I couldn't figure it out. I went up there with my mom and I just couldn't. I was on my butt the whole time. I could not figure out the legs. And finally she looks at me and she says, "Erica, if you don't get down this mountain, we're going to freeze to death up here." Wow. She was absolutely right. Just get down the mountain. Yeah.
My experience was the first time I went skiing, didn't really know anything about the diamond systems, and ended up in an area. I was like, how am I going to get down? So I basically rolled down the hill over the next 3 hours. So yeah, anyway, I respect people who can ski.
Probably went on a black diamond your first time.
I followed somebody. I shouldn't have done it. But anyway, so here in St. Louis, obviously a lot of good Italian restaurants. When you do your spaghetti, do you keep the sauce separate or do you put them together?
I keep them separate. And that's funny that you mentioned that. It's because I made spaghetti last night and I was like, why did I keep it separate? It's so much better when you mix it all together in the same pot. But yeah, I keep it separate. I don't know why. I don't know why I do that.
I'm the same way. I just think there's something about it that keeps it fresher.
Yeah.
Whatever. So.
But then I watch all these incredible cooking videos, and then they cook the pasta, and then they add it to the sauce with the pasta water and mix it all together. And I'm like, I've seen this how many times, and I've still not executed it. I'm not doing it right.
Yeah. I also saw one where you put leftover coffee in your spaghetti sauce. Apparently, that's good too.
Can't say I've ever heard that.
Yeah, I don't. It's crazy, but anyway. Okay. So last question. And who is the kindest person that you've encountered in the past month in sports?
Oh gosh.
I know it's a big question. The last one, we got to end it on something good.
I know the pressure is real now. I don't know. We haven't really seen anybody. We haven't really done any face-to-face stuff. Everything's through Zoom. Oh gosh, now I'm gonna let down all of your fans.
Well, just say Darren Pang.
I really don't know. Say that. Say what?
Say Darren Pang and be done with it.
He's always the best, right? Darren Pang is the man. He's a legend. Sure, we'll go Darren Pang.
Darren Pang, that's great. Again, Erica, we really appreciate you taking time with us and spend some time here with the fans. good luck to you with the rest of the season. Again, it's gonna be fun, as fans come back and the Blues are picking up these games against playoff teams. It's gonna be really rocking in a great environment. So excited for you. Thanks for the time and good luck to everything you do. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you on pause and put you on hold, and we'll end the podcast. Thank you for joining us, Erica.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good.